Oh, and good morning, at least on my end anyway. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another episode of Crypto with English. So today's theme is going to be social impact entrepreneurship on the metaverse using blockchain technology. I'd like to warmly welcome to you all Eric Osuorah. He is the founder of AFOMA. Now, this is a token, this is a platform, and this has its own NFT and metaverse type secondary economy. So, Eric, thank you very much for coming on to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
Now, when we got on our initial call, you told me, I guess you could say, the background of AFOMA, like the meaning behind the name and kind of the underlying philosophy. Could you introduce that?
Sure. First of all, I am originally from Nigeria, and I have a charity registered here in Canada, and we do work across sub-Saharan Africa. And I wanted to create a platform that could drive social impact, leveraging technology, especially within the whole blockchain space. And so I got a number of people together, and I pitched the vision and the idea of what I was trying to do. And we started thinking up of a name that gives our vision some credibility, or some, that relates to what we're pretty much doing. Right? And we were throwing words around, and we stumbled upon the word AFOMA, right? And which means goodwill. It's actually an Igbo language, because I'm from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria. So we played around with a couple of words, and then we were brainstorming. My wife was just passing by, and I asked her, "Hey, what's goodwill in our native language?" And then she threw that out, right? So that's what AFOMA means. It means goodwill. So that's what our slogan really refers to in terms of the goodwill token. So that's how the name came about.
Well, when it comes to goodwill, we sure as hell need a lot more of that in today's world, to say the least. So I'm very happy to hear about this. So when you conceptualize this, of course, with the help and inspiration of your wife, what were some of the first problems off the top of your head you wanted to deal with and address?
Yeah, so when you look at with my work through my charity, we see a lot of challenges in developing countries, especially in regions like in Africa, right? The rate of poverty is still very significant in those regions, and they are still not able to. There is some progress, but it's going at a very slow pace. Right. And I wanted a situation whereby we're taking a different approach towards breaking the cycle of poverty. We wanted to find ways where we can allow people, by giving them the platform or the ability to break that cycle. And one of the ways that I thought about through a number of research that we were doing had to do with the fact that we wanted to, I was thinking about doing a bit of research and coming up with ideas. And I stumbled upon an article that talked about how we have 65% of handmade products being moved from developing regions into high-income countries. But then we still have a high percentage of these artisans remain in poverty. And from my personal experience as well, where I've tried to conduct some business back in Nigeria, and the challenge is you don't see a lot of digital platforms or give a number of these businesses online, where all you just simply do is go online, look for what you want to buy it and ship or whatever, right? But you don't see that a lot. And businesses are usually conducted over the phone, right? So I wanted to find ways that I can enable people and who have the skill set around handmade products or crafts, get online access, be on a digital platform, and be able to break into the global market, into the global handicraft space. So that's really what led to all of this inspiration. And that's why we at AFOMA are trying to we've identified that problem, and we want to find ways to actually give people that ability to actually get on and get access to the global economy.
Got it. And to give the audience a little bit more context, the artisans, what kind of crafts are they making that are, let's say, reaching, some of these areas of the world, like, Western Europe, the United States, and Canada, for instance?
Yeah, primarily just handmade products, right? So if you look
Right.
at the likes of what Etsy is doing today,
Right.
right? So those are the kind of artisans or merchants that we are interested in. But the problem is this, right? Platforms like Etsy are
Right.
primarily built to serve the purposes of high-income countries, but primarily because their model is quite expensive, right?
Right.
And West they still leverage payment systems or technology that cuts off people who are unbanked, people who
Right.
still don't have access to payment gateways or banking systems that can enable them to receive payments, right? So what we decided to do is to figure out leverage blockchain and cryptocurrency to
Right.
create inclusion, because that's really what we're trying to do here, right? We're
Right.
trying to create inclusion and build a platform that's very affordable to these individuals that are across these developing regions who are totally marginalized. And
Yeah.
that's the one way we felt that we could achieve that through the power of crypto.
And by the way, that's a very good point you mentioned about Etsy and its business model, that it is, you could say, more or less made consistent with, let's say, the US market and related markets.
Right.
So, based on that, if you're, let's say, an artisan, in Nigeria, you're making, essentially these beautiful handmade type of, it's either wall art, sculptures, or, things along those lines. How much off the top is Etsy taking from you? Let's say if you're based in Lagos or, anywhere else in the, surrounding area, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their business model today, I mean, first of all, you have to pay per listing, and I think it's about either 20 or 30 cents per listing, right?
Yeah.
And you have to renew that every 4 months, right? So, and then there is a transaction fee on top of that, right? Or a commission fee, and then there is another fee for converting to your local currency.
Wow.
So the numbers just keep going up and up and up and up, right?
Yeah.
So imagine a country like in Nigeria, for example, where it's about 500 plus naira to $1.
Okay.
And then you're imagining where someone who is in Nigeria as well, or somewhere in Africa, that has to list like 10 different products, right? Now imagine they have to list 12, well, let's say 20 cents or 30 cents per product, but they have to renew that every 4 months, right? And if they don't make a sale, they still have to renew every 4 months. And
I see.
And obviously, when they do make that sale, how long does it take for them to get their payout to their pockets? And at the end of the day, how much gets into their pocket, right? That's really what matters at the end of the day, right?
Right. Yeah. And I'll have to say this, as kind of chaotic, times are today, I think one of the things that has improved over time is the conscious buyer. So a lot of buyers, a lot of consumers want to know that if they are subscribing, if they are purchasing a product, that there is at least some sort of benefit outside of the, transaction, and if it can go towards something good, for instance, people would prefer that, myself included. So like, hypothetically behind me, I have like a wall mural of Arnold Schwarzenegger from Pumping Iron. I would personally rather buy that. Now I got it from Amazon. However, if I had the choice, I would have rather buy something like that from an artisan or some sort of like kind of a up and coming, artist who makes those kind of products. Cause that kind of makes for a better economy. It actually, in fact, it prevents monopolies. One can argue, some of these companies kind of have monopolies.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And again, that's why I keep emphasizing. I mean, the technology we have today, especially when it comes to fintech, we have to really look into those technologies, because we have to start to realize that these products or these platforms are really not sustainable or will not primarily work. for developing regions. And in places like some of these developing regions, whether it's LATAM or Southeast Asia or whatever,
Yeah.
we have to look at business models or models that are more decentralized,
Right.
that can enable these merchants or artisans to have access to their money quicker. That's one.
Yeah.
Can have enough of their revenue back into their pocket,
Yeah.
and then just simply find ways to also incentivize the exceptional works that they do. Because if you look at what, there's a lot of talk about a creator economy, and that's really what
Right.
AFOMA is all about, right? For example, on our marketplace, our multi-vendor e-commerce space, one of the things we intend to do is leverage AFOMA for our loyalty and referral programs. So, for example,
Awesome.
how do I incentivize you to support artisans in those regions? If you come and buy a beautiful Arnold Schwarzenegger Canva on our platform,
Right.
we will incentivize you in tokens
Right.
to say we're encouraging you, we're thanking you for supporting these artisans. And at the end of the day,
Right. As a buyer, I feel much better doing that too.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, you are getting something for what you. And don't get me wrong, there are a number of platforms today that are doing 1% cash backs and all whatnot. But then you have to start looking at, okay, that's all fine and good. But when you last start looking at factoring in inflation and all whatnot, some people might be looking at different options as well, right?
Right.
Crypto gives you that different option, where we as much as it's very volatile, it also fights back on inflation, right? So as long as you have a proper utility or business model or utility or model for those tokens, the value keeps just going up and up and up and up and up, right? And at the end of the day, it adds value for people who are holders of those tokens at the end of the day, right? So it's all about incentivizing. It's all about finding ways to build a community where everybody who is partaking within that community can get something out of it. And that's the only way we can lift other people up, because sometimes people in Africa are not looking for charity. Let's be honest.
Right.
They're not looking for that. They just want opportunities for them to succeed. And I know a lot of money, we keep sending money back to Africa and all whatnot, but does that really solve the problem? It probably just puts a band-aid to it. But the problem is we have to find ways to become very creative to give these people the opportunity to enable themselves. And that's really what they need. That's really it.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is, whether it's between first world countries or developing countries, it seems like when aid is transacted, it actually ends up in the place where it's least deserving. So I almost wonder, it kind of ends up in the bank accounts of bureaucrats or other types of related corrupt leaders and whatnot. And speaking of Africa, continental Africa, and the work ethic, one of the major, I guess you could say, statistics and figures out there is that volume-wise, the highest is actually within Africa. So this is stretched out between Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, South Africa. So to kind of maybe add some context, why do you think the continent of Africa is transacting the most amount of volume in cryptocurrency each day?
It's just purely the fact that the whole decentralized model of crypto, right? I mean, people gain easy access to that digital asset, right? I mean, that's really why, and everybody is finding a way to gain financial freedom, and to some extent, crypto gives you that, right? I mean, they have to do their homework and look at the right projects and conduct their businesses. But let's be honest, payment systems across Africa, first of all, and most developing nations, it's broken. It's very fragmented. I'll give you an example. One of an artisan we tested with on our beta testing. She's a teacher, and she's a toy maker in Abuja. When we reached out to her about piloting with us, that was one of the things she pointed out: payment systems. She cannot scale out beyond Nigeria, right? So what happens is that now when you start bringing in the right technology, where everything is decentralized, you have the ability to transact or conduct business with anybody in the world, and within a matter of an hour, say, right? People tend to rely on those kind of things, right? In Nigeria, for example, unfortunately, the government has banned the adoption of the banks from conducting trading in crypto, right? And at the end of the day, people are finding ways to conduct business. People are finding ways to to receive remittances from families. So what you're going to expect that people are just going to leverage crypto because one, it's decentralized. Two, the fact that they can receive remittances quicker, right? And a percentage of that remittance gets back into their pocket. For example, if I were to send money to any family member in Nigeria, for example, I might be paying some percentage of that money probably is lost just before it gets out there, right? For example, if I were to use Western Union, for example, I'm sending $1,000. You can imagine the amount of commission that they're going to have to take from that money.
That's very true.
So that explains a lot why it's important that or you see a lot of these volumes of people leaning more towards that technology, especially the right technology, because when you start looking at the likes of Ethereum today, you can also see they're getting up there. The transaction fees are quite high.
Oh, yeah. Right. And speaking of technology, I was reading the light paper. I was going through the website. So you're using a BEP20 Binance token. Talk about that and talk about the reason why you chose that over, some of the other kind of more common competitors out there.
It's practically just simply, the fact that if we're going to be dealing with the marginalized, right? We also want their transaction fees to be very minimal. Unfortunately, Ethereum at this point, because of the whole congestion and the same thing with Bitcoin, it is very expensive. They can't afford that, right? I mean, just me conducting any transaction in an ERC20 token, it takes some. For me, I might not feel it, but for someone in those regions, it's a big deal, right? So you definitely want. That's why we chose to look at Binance and BEP20 tokens to start off our crypto token. However, I will say that AFOMA will be a neutral token. And what do I mean by that? We will be building on other blockchain networks, but not blockchain networks that align with our vision, right? So Binance helps us to break that transaction fee hike, right? In terms of conducting transactions. We'll be building on other blockchain networks, which eventually we'll be announcing eventually, but we'll be looking at blockchain networks that can give us the advantage of one, allowing our transaction fees to be very minimal, because if we're promoting conducting businesses in commerce and for marginalized regions, we definitely want to factor in those things in our decision making or model, right? So that's why we went with BEP, and regardless of the fact that Binance is very, very, very popular in those regions as well, very, very popular, right? So they've done extremely well, and their team, they've done amazing things, and that's why we've decided that we should first build them on Binance and launch using a BEP20 standard.
That's definitely very wise, and by the way, speaking of Etsy, so I know a few artists, and I know some of them are trying to promote and sell their art, and I do always hear from them that a lot of these kind of overhead upfront fees they have to pay are just a real pain in the ass. So and this is anecdotally, of course, but from hearing some of these stories, even from them, so even if they're based on the East Coast here, it's like you're losing 15-20% in some cases, just to essentially get your art out there. And by the way, that's even if it ends up selling. So I can imagine, even beyond continental Africa, there is a genuine need for something like this, especially if you're an artisan, you're an artist, you want to kind of have some autonomy and control, over your cash flow. And of course, in the Igbo language, this means goodwill. So it's I think it's very nice, and I think it's very, very fitting with the ultimate goals behind this.
Absolutely.
So that is great. And could you talk about plans for the token and the NFT marketplace you have called Osuorah?
Yes. So we are looking at sometime fourth quarter of this year, we will be launching an NFT marketplace called Osuorah, which actually means one and only.
Nice. I like
which
it.
is really the premise behind NFTs, anyways, right?
Right.
I want to take a different approach with NFTs. I'm a bit on the I'm a bit I don't know how to put it, but
Like a
I'm
little
going to
like
be a bit.
skeptical with
No, I
some of the
wouldn't say
stuff out there.
skeptical per se,
Okay.
but I want to make sure that the vision behind our NFT marketplace it has value, and I'll explain
Got it.
what I mean. Because we tend to see a lot of NFTs put out today, where there's a sad monkey or CryptoPunk,
Right.
one of
Right.
these
Yeah.
images that I now go, and then you see people paying lots of money for these things.
Right.
It's not my place to question how people spend their money, but then when I look at the value of what's out there, I want to change that a bit, right? And
Right.
we want to have the ability where artists from wherever, especially from the developing regions, can put out NFTs, but we want them to project their culture,
Right.
and heritage. Because when you look at developing nations, right, a lot of these countries are very rich in culture and heritage.
In history, yeah.
Nigeria is very, very rich when it comes to culture, and there's a lot of things we can share across the globe, right?
Right.
And if you look at a lot of the conflicts and all whatnot happening in the world today, and racist,
Yeah. Like right-wing
racism and
nationalists, like
everything going on,
xenophobic.
it's all about people don't understand each other. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can leverage art to explain or tell someone, this is who I am, right?
Yeah.
People tend to appreciate where you're from, what your culture is all about. It tells a story. And we want to leverage Oruvan to do the same, where we can have people or even musicians in these regions put out their music, put out their art, tell a story, show their culture, show their heritage, and people tend to appreciate where that's coming from and show value for it. So I would want someone like Justin Bieber coming in and pay $2 million for a kid, for that can put out something that shows the value of his local community or the country where he's from or the region where he's from. That for me, it means a lot. There is a connection to those things, and that's where we would hope that Oruvan can help create that niche and cut out all of the noise that's around the NFT marketplace, which is, to be honest, very, very saturated at this point.
Right. And, language and art always tells a story about, one's culture. And, continental Africa has been described as the cradle of civilization. So as humans, I guess you could say 40,000 plus years as Homo sapiens is kind of, I guess you could say the vehicle that we're all in as humans originated in Africa. And also continental Africa is the most linguistically diverse area of the world with the most languages. So you can imagine the potential for this and some of these artists and the potential they can have in the market. All of these languages and all these cultures naturally spurning and creating their own respective art. And this art essentially ends up getting more, visibility, and it gets more, gets more eyes on it. And by the way, I totally agree with you with NFTs. Whether it's like, cyberpunks or the Bored Ape Yacht Club and things that have come along, that is nice and all. But like you, I would love to see some of this big money buy-in with some of these like genuine, artisans that are putting out some really thoughtful, rich, rich art, so to say. And by the way, even as a consumer, I would love to have more visibility and access, to that as well. Art is always a learning experience, and art is kind of a storytelling device. And in fact, whether it's in continental Africa or any other region of the world, every country, every culture begins with storytelling, and that's kind of how we end up developing, our respective, civilization, around that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. That's really what our vision is. We're not saying we're going to be totally exclusive per se,
right?
But we have to have a purpose, and our purpose is really enabling these marginalized artists wherever they may be, whether it's in Asia, Latin America, Africa, the Caribbean. Tell a story. Show us what your art, project your culture, your heritage, and be proud of it. That's really what we're going to be encouraging people to do through Oruvan.
Right. And through Oruvan, can artisans essentially log on, use the platform, and then now start building kind of NFTs around their mural, their painting, or, I guess maybe you could say a clip of their, sculpture, and start circulating that out?
Yeah. You're looking at from a physical endpoint as well. Is that what you like, a physical asset then?
Right. It seems like it's covering both. So if you want to essentially sell the physical art, you could do that. If you want to make an NFT, it seems like you can do it on this too, right?
I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the things we're looking at doing is on Cellidic. Cellidic is our multi-vendor e-commerce platform, right? So on Cellidic, we're going to have our artists, people who do a physical canvas, right? They can, part of our roadmap is where they can also build an NFT for that, right? So then what you can do is on Oruvan, as you're buying that NFT, you can also be paying for the physical.
That's great.
Right? Yeah. So that's how we want to link the entire ecosystem together at the end of the day.
Right. That's awesome. And could you touch upon the AFOMA token, the AFOMA token in the ecosystem? Tell us a little bit about that.
So the ecosystem, the AFOMA token, first of all, it's we're looking at minting about 1 billion tokens for that. As you said, we're starting off as a BEP20 token standard. The AFOMA token will be used primarily to drive that ecosystem, right? So we have Cellidic, which is our multi-vendor handicraft marketplace, Oruvan, which is our NFT, and AFOMAland, which will be our metaverse, right? Now, there will be a number of utility for our token. One of them would have to be we are looking at a staking liquidity pool rewards program for the AFOMA token. AFOMA will be used to drive our loyalty and referral program within Cellidic. So where, as people are buying, we're incentivizing. As artisans are putting out products and people are providing positive feedback, we're incentivizing. As you are doing a referral, we're going to incentivize as well, right?
Got it.
We are going to leverage AFOMA as well towards governance, right? So as we are building an open source development within our ecosystem, we want our token holders to also have a say in how that ecosystem is built. We will also be leveraging that for governance when we're now donating a percentage of our revenue towards SDG goals. We want our token holders to also determine where some of our donations or funding for humanitarian work should go to across the globe as well, right? Now, we also will be encouraging our token holders to hold. Why? Because as I pointed out, a number of these utility, we can unlock a number of features for them as well. For example, when it comes to AFOMAland, which is our metaverse, there are a number of things that we can actually do there that could give them the opportunity to be part of that that metaverse community, because we are building in what one of our team members would say, a metaverse for all. So we have a solid utility for our token itself. We're not just building out a token where has no value, or not value, but use case per se. And that's why our vision is very exciting, because AFOMA is really going to be applied towards real world use cases, right? So there is a utility for our token, and that's what we're very, very proud of.
That's awesome. And by the way, you took the question right out of my mouth. I was just about to ask you, talk about the AFOMAland Metaverse. Talk about kind of the underlying philosophy and what you eventually plan on achieving with it.
Beautiful. So at AFOMAland, we plan on projecting our multi-vendor marketplace on AFOMAland. The reasons why we thought about that is technology is changing every day.
Right.
And we do not want to have these developing nations left behind. We want to continue our vision around impact. We want to continue our vision around commerce, or enabling commerce, leveraging these new emerging technologies. So we will be projecting our marketplace on AFOMAland. AFOMAland will also project NFTs in terms of digital art as well. So we will have galleries. So we're going to be building a metaverse world. That's what AFOMAland is. So we'll be building our own world where we can project art that are coming from artisans from marginalized regions and across the globe as well. We're looking at projecting our Celtic marketplace. We will be putting out accessibility to schools. Imagine where a kid in Africa can be collaborating with a kid in North America or a teacher in North America, and they can.
You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I was actually about to ask that. Yeah,
absolutely, where they can bridge that, through using technology to bridge that gap there. Right. There are a lot of things we intend to do within AFOMAland. We want to have local artists from across these developing and other parts of the globe, come in there and perform their local music. Even NGOs can come into Metaverse and do fundraising events and all whatnot. Right. There's the beauty about the Metaverse is that it gives you unlimited opportunities of what you can do there. Right. The question now is accessibility. Right. How do you get these folks in these poorer countries to partake in what you're trying to do? Right. We have to be honest, and Oculus VR headset is not affordable for people.
Right. It's not at a point where it's cost efficient, really, for anybody, really.
Absolutely.
And VR has been essentially talked about. It's been known since like the late 70s, early 80s, and it's still very, very pricey.
It is. And I know there are folks working day and night to make sure that they're putting out something there, but we want to take a different approach for us. We want to project our metaverse leveraging smartphones, right? So if you have a smartphone, which, to be honest with you, if you look at all of these poor countries, you'll be very shocked at how many people have mobile phones and don't even have a bank account, right?
Right.
Right. So, we want to leverage the ability that we have these people in these regions who have smartphones to partake. Right. So you can have a kid who just needs access to some person or some teacher or educator in some high income country that can educate them or give them access to some knowledge or something that they're looking for. Just unlock so many potentials. And that's why we're building AFOMAland, because impact means a lot to us. And we want to leverage that AFOMAland to totally drive that. And for us, our first iteration is to make sure that mobile usage we adopt the use of mobile phones to drive that vision, because that's really what's prevalent in these regions, right? So that addresses the accessibility problem for us.
Got it. So I kind of have a hypothetical for you regarding this AFOMAland Metaverse. So let's say hypothetically I'm an artist, and let's say I'm based right here in New York City, and let's say I personally love like a lot of like medieval and like dark ages type of art. So like, the barbarians or with like knights and stuff like that. Like,
I can see your logo on LinkedIn with the whole.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, and I used to love watching, documentaries like about that stuff. So let's say if I'm a user and I want to make this kind of this dark age, you could say medieval warrior themed, historical warrior themed type of collection, so to say. So from all different eras, all different periods. So I can essentially go on AFOMAland, and AFOMAland will essentially be almost like an open market or like a mall. Essentially, I would be doing the equivalent of like setting up a little stand or like a kiosk or something like that.
Absolutely. So exactly, AFOMAland is, as I pointed out, it's a world. You can come buy a parcel of land and build what you want to build.
Got it. Awesome. Right? So let's say going off of that, I know one of the kind of greatest warlords and warriors in continental African history is Shaka Zulu. And in fact, I love reading about all this stuff. So he actually made a very special type of shield and sword and spear, particularly suited for the terrain. And you could say fighting the British who were using muskets and, bayonets and stuff like that. So I'm a huge history nerd. So anyway, I won't get too deep into that. But let's say if I see another artisan who is selling, let's say, Shaka Zulu warlord type of art. So whether it's kind of sculptures or murals to send out, I could technically just like in a metaverse go up to him like, hey, listen, why don't we partner up? why don't we make this a big theme together?
Absolutely.
And let's just split the profits.
Absolutely.
Like I could do that technically.
Absolutely. And that's what the metaverse gives you, right? I mean, that's really what the metaverse gives you. It just creates that bridge that you would normally not have. Imagine, so maybe, as you pointed out, this might be somewhere in Kenya, right? And you don't have accessibility to them. Normally, you don't have a phone number or whatever, but you're in AFOMAland and you're seeing all these districts and you say, oh, this is interesting. And you walk in there and go, hey, what's going on here? I'm Adam, and you guys connect and you say, why don't we build something together? And then you can pool your resources and there you go. You now have your own Shaka Zulu, center or whatever.
Literally like kind of this like, you could say this global ancient, warlord or warrior type theme to it. Literally kind of covering like different regions. Like
absolutely. Yeah. And you pull your resources, get your developers, you build your land, you expand, and off you go. Right. At the end of the day, what AFOMAland is all about is building a connection. And as much as we want to maintain our vision around culture, heritage, impact, and all whatnot, right? So as long as people have the concept of what they want to do within AFOMAland, it's pretty much where you walk in there and you can browse, you can buy, you can do whatever you want to do, conduct your business, and you can decide to buy a parcel of land and build and develop. We even encourage teachers who want to probably come in there and educate kids from any part of the globe. And the fact that now people can now connect with their mobile devices, right? They can connect and they can collaborate as well. That's really what we're all about at AFOMA.
And, I'm thinking about some of the other effects from this. So let's say, back to the hypothetical, if I want to, let's say, partner with either that, let's say, that Kenyan-based artisan or the Nigerian-based artisan, let's say, making like Shaka Zulu warlord or Shaka Zulu type art, that means I can have access to the African market if I wanted to sell my stuff. And in turn, that Nigerian or Kenyan artist can also have access to, let's say, the American market, to kind of, let's say, push the Shaka Zulu for, hypothetical, based art, so to say.
Yeah, the opportunities of what the metaverse can give you is unlimited, right? Because imagine it. That's really what the internet is doing today. That's really what it is. You can connect with anybody across the globe today on the internet, and that's what the metaverse does. It just now gives you a much more immersive experience and maybe more of a personal touch than you're just, sending emails and all whatnot. There's something about where, I mean, you're not physically there, but you have your avatar and you're communicating with someone in real time and all whatnot, right? So that's the beauty and the potential of what the metaverse offers, will offer the world in the near future. And we cannot let these marginalized regions be left behind. And that's why our drive today is not just from we don't want developing countries or marginalized regions to be left behind, but we have to factor in the potential of bringing in social impact along with these technologies, because to be honest with you, we need a lot of that. We honestly do need a lot of projects that are applied towards real world issues, towards solving problems, towards social impact. We need a lot of that. And that can help change the narrative really around blockchain technology and crypto, because once you start introducing these technologies and crypto, blockchain into the mainstream world, mainstream use cases, people then they don't see it as a myth anymore. People don't look at it as, I don't know what this is a scam, because primarily when you look at these regions like in Africa, they're still not trusting. As much as we see a lot of volume trading, especially with Bitcoin in these regions, there's still a very small amount, let's be honest, right? The goal really now is to extend that. And that's one of the things that why AFOMA, I'm going to speak about our partner rewards program a little bit, if you permit.
That read my mind. I was literally about to ask about that. Yes,
that's exactly reasons why we're partnering with organizations that drive our vision, right? I'll give you, for example, we do understand that a lot of artisans in these regions have no understanding of cryptocurrency. We do know that. But I do not dwell on what in the past or what's current. I looked
Right.
towards the future, right? And that's why we said, listen, regardless of what's happening now, the future is going to change. Cryptocurrency will be there. That's
Right.
it's a known fact. It's there, and the fact that we know we take into consideration that a lot of the artisans that will be trading on our platform or will be conducting business on our platform at the early stages will not be more crypto savvy, right? So for us, what do we do? What's the goal here? We want to educate them, and that's why we're building partnerships with organizations today that can educate or disseminate the education of cryptocurrency and blockchain across Africa, right? So we're partnering with an organization today that we probably will be even making an announcement shortly with about that partnership. So we're looking at organizations that can do that. We're going to be partnering with organizations that are more youth driven.
Right.
Their vision is about youth empowerment, right? So we're going to be partnering with organizations like that because why? A percentage of youth across Africa, we're looking at from the ages of 25 and above, the percentage is high. We're talking about maybe almost 60% to 70%, about 70% across Africa. What is the opportunity? What is the government doing? What are the platforms? What are the opportunities that are available to these kids? Right. So we want to build a format to actually help to give these kids opportunity. Right.
Yeah.
There might be a lot of them who have exceptional skills to build products, handmade products, and we want to bring them on our platform. Right. We want to have the opportunity where through Celedic, we can expand businesses. Habiba Rabiu, one of the lady that we tested with for our pilot, when she first listed her product on Celedic, it was the first time someone in North America bought that product. The first time she has ever sold a product outside Nigeria, right?
Wow.
But when she tested with us, the light bulbs went off because now she says, okay, now I'm trading outside my country and I have to now change the way I do business. I have to now use the right packaging. I have to make my product more aesthetically pleasing. I have to do certain things to attract that market because the high income country market is different from what you have in Nigeria, for example, right? So what happens there? She now looks at smaller businesses that can build packaging boxes, right? So imagine where we have tons of artisans across Africa, and we can look at you to say, if you know how to package boxes, you can be the sole distributor for this region in this country, and we will incentivize. They can pay you for your service, and if we continue getting feedback that you're doing well, we will incentivize you in AFOMA tokens because we want to encourage businesses like that, right? We want people to know that we have people in these countries that can conduct business as well. And we also want to encourage them as well, right? So when you now start having opportunities where people are making their products, they're looking for kids who can package boxes, looking for kids who can do first mile delivery, right? Because they could be the next Uber in Nigeria or in Kenya or in South Africa, right? So you now start creating opportunities where people are thinking and saying, wait, there is something in here for me because of what this platform is doing, right? So we're building partnerships that can enable us to achieve that. If you look at e-commerce platforms today from these regions, descriptions of their products are not put out right. You can have someone that builds beautiful leather bags, they put it up on a website, and the description just says bag is good. That's not enough description, right? So what do? We want to now leverage teachers, for example, English-speaking teachers who are poorly paid in these regions and say, come, let us incentivize you to have a part-time program with us as agents where you can come and offer this service to get these products properly listed and to help some of these artisans who are illiterate as well, help them on board on top of these platforms. And that is what AFOMA does. There are people doing this today, don't get me wrong, but the problem is also again, the technology is it's a legacy technology, right? And we want to start adopting crypto to change things that way, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to, send money or incentivize these people without still taking a chunk of that money because they have to now receive that money 3% conversion fee or 5% conversion fee or whatever, right? So we want to start looking at models that can actually work out at the end of the day. And that's what our former partner rewards program helps us do, to build this network or an interdependent system where all of these partners we're bringing in are contributing towards our goal, which is social impact.
Yeah. And I have to say, this platform and, the goals that are set out, this seems to really deal and solve a lot of problems with, let's say, unbanked communities, unbanked populations across the world. But I would even say even banked populations as well. All the time I hear about it, class action lawsuits against various well-known banks because they take out these random fees that a lot of people don't otherwise notice over time. But also with the hyperinflation, it's made and reduce the value of every dollar in everybody's, in everybody's pocket. So, I definitely see the vast potential of this. And, I want to know too, why did you choose to start out with, artisans and, that you could say professional community? Do you come from like some sort of, do you have like an art background, or do you have like close friends or family members who do this as well?
I do not. I am just a lover of art and culture, right?
Cool.
I appreciate handmade products. I wouldn't lie. I shop a lot at Etsy, and I know how expensive that platform can be. But you again, I'm not. You have to also respect their business model. If they run the business that way, it's not because maybe they are greedy or whatever. Maybe it's just the way that they keep the lights on. Right. For us, we want to take a different approach. We just want to do the bare minimum to get these people by. And right now, I've tasked my team within the e-commerce space where the to list the product is very small. We're talking about probably $2 to just list a product on our platform, and you can list as many products as you want, right? Because again, you have to factor in that a lot of these people in these regions cannot afford to be going on a subscription fee of $20 a month or $10 a month, right? Or pay per listing for a product, right? So we have to look at a business model that works for these regions and for everyone. We are not exclusive. We're going to be working with Canadian artisans because let's be honest, I live here in Canada. There are poor people here, especially like the indigenous community. Right?
Yeah.
We want to target anybody. We are open to anyone. Even if you're currently making a sale on any other platform today in the tens of thousands, we're open to you, right? At the end of the day, we want to build a platform where we are not it's affordable for anyone to come in. As you're putting out a sale, we want you to hold something back as well. So we are not exclusive to just Africa or the Caribbean or Latin America. We are open. We're going to be opening up in the to the US market. We're going to be opening up to artisans in Canada. We're going to be opening up to artisans across Europe as well, right? So so we just have to respect that there are poor people in every corner, nook and cranny of the world here. So we that's why we're taking a more global approach at this point.
Right. And I also enjoy art as well. So if somebody was trying to get into African art, whether it's in Nigeria or South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, do you have a particular I guess you could say favorite style or artist that you would recommend to somebody who's totally new, when it comes to African arts?
I think art is really it takes it from a perspective. Everyone has their own different perspective of what they appreciate, right?
Yeah.
I have a certain taste of what I like. Some people are different. So I wouldn't say I'm in a right position to say I can recommend so and so. I can tell you certain artists in Nigeria that you could go listen to and appreciate their music. But the question is, I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, have you listened to this artist?" But when I listen, it's not my type of music. Or someone says, "Oh, have you looked at this sculpture?" Right? And I look at it, it's not my perspective. But what I can tell you for sure is that there are amazing people in these regions that do beautiful work. I am not even kidding you. And I keep emphasizing on Habiba. When she put out her product and it got to the buyer in America, in Minnesota, the United States, I got a phone call and she told me, I cannot believe that this is coming from someone in Nigeria. That was her quote. It was beautifully done.
Wow.
It was packaged the right way, and it's amazing. So, and that's the kind of story
awesome.
we want to share, because people, like I've said, Africa, the Caribbean, some of these developing countries don't need charity.
Right.
All they just need is obviously their government stepping up, yes, and people give business opportunities, platforms like ours, startups like ours, to give them the right platform to just be able to get ahead. And that's pretty much what we're trying to do.
Right. Yeah, people want a sustainable cash flow and ability to keep, making money. I mean, listen, that's a very noble, admirable, venture, to say the least. And I was going to ask you, what were some of the biggest successes of AFOMA so far? It sounds like that conversation would probably rank pretty high among the successes of AFOMA. But are there any other successes you'd like to draw upon or share?
Absolutely.
Like I said, sounds great.
Yeah, so we've obviously wrapped up phase 1 of our beta testing for Selidic. We're now planning on going into phase 2. AFOMA just wrapped up its pre-seed round for our token, so we were oversubscribed there.
Nice.
So we did very, very well. So we have a very strong momentum going into strategic round. So so those are the two wonderful successes that I can share at this point. And we are looking forward to amazing things. We are very excited about what AFOMA has to offer, and we just can't wait to share that with the world.
Wonderful. And what were some of the biggest obstacles when creating AFOMA? Like, I would imagine, and I always like to ask at least 1 or 2 questions about the entrepreneur's journey, but I would imagine when putting this together, there had to have been detractors, haters, skeptics, cynics who were like, Eric, why? Don't even waste your time. Why the hell are you doing this? Or something along those lines.
Oh man, Adam, I have to tell you, like it's difficult. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. Sometimes I sit back and I ask myself, in hindsight, would I have gone into this? Right? It is very difficult. I will tell you one thing though. I will tell you one thing. I remember the very first day I pitched this idea. I had friends over and I pitched this idea. It was they destroyed me. It was.
You said these are friends, no less.
This is not gonna work. How is that? So, but I was encouraged. Yes, it was hard to take that, but I was encouraged, and all it took was keep talking about it. But I took some of the feedback that they shared, and I said, you know what, they make some sense here. Maybe I should tweak this a little bit, right? So I took that back, did a bit of work on it, and came back, and that's every day we adapt. Every day we find something new. We always change, right? And that's the beauty about what we do, right? You always learn something. You say, oh, this is an obstacle you're going to face, and how do we fix that? We change, we adapt, right? So that was the first big blow that I first received. I was like, they pointed out a few things and skepticisms and all whatnot, and it's understandable because one, when you explain this, when you look at this technology, it's still very new, right? It's still nascent, right? So a lot of people still don't understand it, right? So at the time, I had to go back and figure out how I can spread this word and make it more simpler for people to understand, right? That was probably one of my biggest challenges at the time. But again, one of the other challenges I would say is when you're now, because the way our model is built, where you're bringing in a number of people to, take up this decentralized approach where you're trying to bring in different people to drive that vision. If you're working with organizations that don't share that passion of fast-paced environment, because we are very fast-paced in AFOMA. We try to, we get something new where we move.
Right.
But a lot of some of these organizations or businesses or partners that you look at, take a more slower, conservative approach, right?
Right.
So it can be a bit frustrating at the end of the day, especially when you're dealing with things that has to do with logistics, because our goal is where we just want an artisan. You put your product, you take it to the delivery company, you drop it off, and you go home.
Right.
We don't want you paying upfront costs. In this part of the world, we know when I say that, people go, wait a minute, isn't that the right thing anyway? Why would they be paying for shipping? That's not really the case in some of these poorer regions.
Right.
Because there isn't trust there. Some of these people might even be unbanked. So how do you expect an artisan to take their product, go to the likes of DHL to drop off a product, and they go, oh, you're good to go. It's from, you're good to go. Bye-bye. Most times they tell you, oh, you got to pay up front.
Right.
So imagine where an artisan, someone buys 5 different products, and each shipping, when you're shipping out to a foreign country, you have to pay like in the likes of maybe 20,000 naira to ship from Nigeria to maybe like US. So that means you have to cover like 100,000 naira, right? How many people can afford that, right? So some of these things take time when you start building these partnerships, but we are making very, very good progress. And we intend to lock these things down before we fully launch Celletic, which is hopefully by the 4th quarter of this year. We just simply want artisans to just take their products, get it out to the delivery company, and walk away, no questions asked, and it goes to its destination, and we pay, and we're good to go.
That's wonderful. And, on a final note, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially in this tech, Web3, decentralized, blockchain space? It's always a journey, and it's always a very difficult, uncertain journey, especially.
Absolutely. I would just tell you, do your homework, right? Filter out the noise, right? I had a wonderful young man reach out to me on LinkedIn a few months back, and they wanted me to be an advisor on their project. And I got on the call, and I was asking a number of questions. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to build an NFT marketplace, but he kept on using the wrong word. He kept on saying, we want to build Netflix on the blockchain. I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
When you say I want to build Netflix on the blockchain, what does that like? I want to build something like Netflix on the blockchain. What does that mean? Are you talking about where you want to mint videos? Video content. Right. And he goes, yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to do an NFT. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then they also want to mint a token. And I'm saying, what is the utility of your token?
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Because we tend to see a lot of where people just want to mint tokens, because it's also a way where they sell. And then you see a lot of these projects where, their price goes up, pull rug, and
like a pump and dump, and rug pull.
If you're going into this space, do your homework. Find out what the utility or what your vision is. What are you? There has to be value for what you're trying to do, right? So I always encourage people that are going into this space, show value for what you're trying to do. And as much as we see a lot of DeFi projects out there, we need to start seeing more DeFi for good, crypto for good, right? So I want to encourage people who are thinking about going into this space, think about other ways of where we can drive the impact of cryptocurrency and all of these technologies towards enabling people who are marginalized. So do your homework, get it right, bring in the right set of people to help you, because if you don't have the right set of people with the right skill set, that will be a big challenge. And for me, I am very lucky to have had amazing set of people who are working with me on this project, and I would not have asked for a better team, to be honest.
Well said. Beautifully put. And Eric, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Much appreciated. I'm very excited to see where this project, AFOMA, will be going this year. And listen, I'd love to have you back on in a few months and perhaps pick up, from this episode and from this conversation. I think decentralized tech, used for good. And by the way, to actually encourage commerce from, areas that otherwise don't have such easy access to that, that's probably going to be one of the silver bullets that can get us out of this mess that we're all in. So I think we really need to include and encourage more and more people, into the economy, because, otherwise it's going to be the same old, I guess you could say, decisions, the same old mistakes, and it's going to be the same old assholes making decisions, pardon my French, so to say. But, we're starting to kind of see the cycle, and, many people are suffering. So listen, Eric, again, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. I'm looking forward to familiarizing myself even more with AFOMA. And like I said, we'll talk soon, and let's have you back on in a few months and pick up.
Absolutely. We'd love to have that. Hopefully, I'll keep you posted as well. Maybe once we get into our phase 2, I'll send you a message, say, hey, go buy a product on our e-commerce marketplace.
Absolutely.
And share your experience.
Please let me know. I'd be more than happy to.
Absolutely.
Eric, thank you so much, and take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.